Hello, guys, and welcome to the Drawing Room Experts Season 2. So, welcome to the show. And before I get into what we're going to be talking about, I just want to give a quick intro of what this mini series, if you like, is going to be about. So, like all of you, we have our own favorite artists, bands, singers, and that we listen to, and I've been in a position, fortunately or unfortunately, where I listen to a lot of unique ones. So I very rarely find someone with the same musical taste, if you like, that I can, share my music discussions with, or be at the same level at least. I mean, I find people who like artists one or the other, and you can have a very basic discussion, but never the depths of what I'm looking for. So I thought, why not I start a series where we introduce those artists as if they're new. Although these artists that you're going to be listening to in this mini series that I'm kind of like embedding into the podcast, they're like well established, well known, and if they have huge fan following as well. So it's not something out of the blue. But at the same I think maybe around, you know, uh, maybe the music scene around right now, they don't really feature as much, or they're not under the spotlight as much. So you can easily assume that they're not going to be R&B or hip hop stars because that's what we usually hear nowadays, right? Or EDM. But yeah, that's the thinking behind why I wanted to do kind of like a mini series. And today we're going to be talking about a very, very, I mean, I don't want to call it obscure, but it's kind of bordering around along those lines. But I let uh, um, you know uh, the co-host for today really explain what kind of band they are. But to me, they are kind of like bordering along the obscurity line and very very much a quiet taste, like sushi for me. So, without any further ado, I'm gonna welcome back to the podcast. Um, I want to say Radiohead aficionado, probably. Zain, how's it going?
Oh, wait. Going well actually, but I don't think Radiohead fans will call them obscure. Uh,
Right,
I
right,
think,
yeah.
I mean, they're like one of the most popular ones to come out of Europe or England in the past 30, 40 years. And in
But
terms
you
of
can,
album
but you
sales, I
can
mean, they're
see
not like
why, but you can see why
they
non-fans
haven't
or
smashed
people,
any like sales records, for examples, but
right,
they've
right, right,
still sold like 30, 40 million records across the world, right? Since they started out in the early 90s, late 80s. Magar,
right.
if you're looking at, if you're talking to a rock fan, a classic rock fan,
Mm.
they might sort of be on the perimeter of what they like, right? They're not like a central or a fundamental band for them, let's just say. तो अगर आप उस स्कूल ऑफ थॉट से आ रहे हैं कि आपको क्लासिक रॉक ज़्यादा पसंद है तो हाँ रेडियो हेड इज मोर ऑफ अ चॉइस कट rather than a daily staple.
Right,
uh,
right. So
so yeah,
sushi
I
was
mean,
probably the right
share my
description
point
then.
of view. Hmm?
Sushi was probably the right description then.
Yeah, yeah, I think so. Yeah. So sushi में ये है कि people who like it, who, they really like it,
Really, like, yeah, yeah, yeah.
or
I mean, for
and
me,
some people just don't
sushi.
understand it.
Exactly. तो मैं उसमें कहाँ किस इक्वेशन फॉलो करता हूँ. I am not like anti sushi at all, और मुझे को like I've acquired that taste ever
Hmm.
since I moved to the US. मैंने उससे पहले कभी नहीं खाई थी sushi. So we're talking about sushi, the food right now, not Radiohead the band. But
Yeah.
in terms of my relationship with Radiohead, I think it's very close to what I have with sushi. Is that I enjoy it. I like to have it. I have
Hmm.
my understanding of what taste is,
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
but I'm not going to be waiting, like waking up one morning and say like, yeah, I feel like having sushi today.
Hmm.
That's not.
Hmm.
I'm not in that level yet. कि मैं sushi को like there's no urge for sushi. If I happen to stumble upon some, then great.
Yeah.
Similarly with Radiohead. So before we go down deep into that, l- हमारा musical journey, yours and mine, Zen, has
Hmm.
been very like it started from the same place.
It
Where
has. Yeah.
in that
Yeah.
like I'm thinking right now of that Gulshan apartment.
Yeah.
I'm thinking right now of those
Rarev की सीढ़ियाँ.
yeah, Lara की सीढ़ियाँ. I'm thinking about the uncountable downloaded MP3
Yeah.
music on our computer. जिसमें you had Linkin Park, you had EP, you had U2 of course,
Mm.
and then
Obviously,
you
Red Hot Chili
Coldplay,
Peppers figured a lot.
exactly. Eminem, I
Yeah.
remember as
Yeah.
well,
Yes. Yes.
and a lot of WWE entrance music as well downloaded into that.
Yep.
So like almost same है. Even
Yeah.
from ऐसा नहीं कि you
And
had
then you
your
got
own
into Black
MP3.
Sabbath a lot. फिर
Right, right,
Led
right, right.
Zeppelin
Black
came,
Sabbath,
Floyd.
Rush, Floyd, ये सब चीज़ें मैंने फिर A levels में discover करी थी. But Beatles, for example, Beatles भी
Yeah.
हमने साथ सुना है.
Yeah.
ठीक है ना? तो हमारी musical influences were almost like the same. I think one band kind of like I introduced some bands to you, you introduce some bands to me.
Mm-hmm. Mm.
तो इस तरह से शेयरिंग चलती रहती थी और एक तरह से हमारा एक ही टाइप का रुझान था.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so where did and when did Radiohead come into the mix? Because I am remembering Radiohead की मेरी जो earliest memory है. I think it's probably, I don't know. I'm thinking the latest I can think of is probably the Tariq Road वाला घर.
I mean,
उससे पहले
for
मुझे
me,
क्यों नहीं
maybe
आ
it
रहा?
was
Maybe गुलशन,
slightly.
maybe जौहर was,
Yeah.
शायद मैंने सुना हो वहाँ पर. But we
I
didn't have
think.
like separate MP3 players too. That's what I was trying to get to is कि हमारा कोई ऐसा नहीं था कि तुम्हारा अपना MP3 player है और मेरा अपना MP3 player है. We usually used to listen to the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
So how did Radiohead come into the folk play?
For
Because I
me,
don't remember.
Radiohead was like almost like an accident. हुआ ये था कि I mean, सबने उनके बिल्कुल staple songs जो हैं, which is the most famous song is Creep that everyone has heard essentially,
Yeah,
right,
yeah,
in the world.
yeah, yeah.
And I mean, fun fact, they hate it now. But मैंने जो है Radiohead, like I said, मैंने गलती से या accident से सुना था because I was 19 around that time. I was actually traveling. पाकिस्तान आ रहा था शायद मैं
Oh, so
Emirates
you
से.
had moved to the Canada. You had moved to Canada
हाँ
by then.
कनाडा मूव कर चुका था मैं मतलब उससे
हाँ,
पहले
so then I'm
मुझे
right.
पता था I knew OK Computer I knew obviously Pablo Honey's Creep वगैरह but मैं Emirates में Radiohead को सुन रहा था and Emirates में बैठा हुआ था and they had like a lot of album selections ना available
right.
तो फिर मैंने सोचा कि हाँ you know I've heard about OK Computer a lot never really heard it right so why don't I just and you know obviously you have time to kill you have
Right.
nothing else going on मूवियाँ भी 2-3 देख ली थी तो उससे भी मैं पारे हो गया था तो I thought might as well just you know hear this album out OK Computer because you know it's been talked about hyped a lot for I mean it had been going on for what close to 20 years or no 15 years at that point
Right.
oh
And OK Computer, by the way, just for anyone, OK Computer is one of those albums that even if you don't know about Radiohead, you know OK Computer.
you know that it
You know
exists
the name
because
OK Computer, you know कि यार होता है ना कि automatically you have some respect for it, even though you haven't listened to the album, you know
yeah
the band, you know the genre.
it's
So I know
exactly like
which,
Sergeant Pepper's for people in the 90s in the sense कि
yeah,
शायद
yeah,
लोगों
yeah.
ने सुना नहीं होगा इसके बारे में but they still sort of you know it's
They,
revered
they
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 know
know the
it's like
hype around it.
hallowed ground
Yeah,
right
yeah. What's the name of the Nirvana album?
never mind
Never mind, right? तो
yeah
वो जैसी एल्बम थी वो आइकॉनिक एल्बम्स में
yeah
शुमार किया जाता
exactly
है even myself included I probably listened to a few songs of that album
yeah
क्या कहते हैं निर्वाणा की but I
और
even
उसकी
even I know कि
iconography मतलब उसकी जो उसकी fame is associated with the album cover as well like you recognize the
right
album cover OK
OK
Computer में
Computer का
या
same thing
never mind में या क्या कहते हैं Sergeant Pepper's का you know the album cover and stuff like that
Mhm.
same goes for you know Abbey Road or Acting Baby or Joshua Tree so ये जो एल्बम है मैंने आज मैंने लगा दी थी मतलब चलो मैं यार नींद भी आ रही है ऐसा करता हूँ सुन लेता हूँ and what I the first thing I remember was नींद चली गई थी like नींद was gone because
what was the
uh,
first song that you heard
the first song was Airbag from that
okay
album and
and we'll
उसकी
get
जो
to that I think it's on your list as well
yeah it is on my list and उसकी जो opening riff है it's like a chainsaw going through basically uh, your mind and उससे उसके बाद से just it just got my attention और उसको if you कुछ एल्बम्स ऐसी होती हैं कि वो आर्टिस्ट आके बताता है यार एक कॉन्सेप्ट एल्बम है इसको ना कॉन्सेप्ट एल्बम के तौर पे सुनना कि नो
हाँ हाँ
ऑल द
हाँ
सॉन्ग्स आर
लेंस दे
लेंथ
देता आपको पहले से लेंस
या
दे देता आपको
ओके कंप्यूटर इज अ कॉन्सेप्ट एल्बम मगर मुझे पता नहीं था उसके बारे में मगर आप मैंने सुनेंगे ना देन यू जस्ट रियलाइज कि हाँ ये कॉन्सेप्ट एल्बम है इसमें एक बात
हाँ
बताने की कोशिश कर रहे हैं थ्रू 12 or 10 songs it is that vibrant and it's that obvious to you और वो चीज़ मुझे सबसे ज़्यादा पसंद आई लाइक favorite, some of my favorite albums of all time have a theme, right? Okay, you can listen to it and you remember a time and a place
There's a
that
mood
the artist
associated
is in.
to it. Yeah, there's a mood associated to it.
Yeah,
There's a
I mean,
feeling associated to it.
exactly. So if you're listening to like the Joshua Tree, वो एक Americana album है, right? It's about
Right.
America. Or similarly, मैंने mention किया था acting maybe it's about uh,
The
post-Berlin
European. Yeah.
Europe, right? And then Europa is like postmodern Europe. So it's actually about 20, 30 years into the future, and it has a
Acha.
very bleak outlook of humanity because technology has taken over.
Right,
Oh,
right, right. Acha,
that
pause,
album is
pause right here.
hmm,
Pause right here. I think this is all great. I think we're going to be getting into that in a lot
hmm,
of detail. But before we do, let's talk about the band itself. Like, so
yeah.
what do you know about the band? How many band members are there? What is their like core instruments? How long have they been around?
Right.
So that's like a brief kind of
So
like an
so
outlook history of the band.
Radiohead has always been the original five. और इन लोगों की जो स्टार्ट है वो हुआ था ऑक्सफोर्ड इंग्लैंड से लाइक यू कैन इमेजिन अ मोर पॉश प्लेस राइट आप उनके
Hmm.
गाने सुने तो उसमें जो ब्लीकनेस है आई मीन माइट सजेस्ट कि यार देव कम फ्रॉम अ वेरी डार्क प्लेस या उनके एक्सपीरियंसेस ऐसे हुए हैं बट नो दे हैड अ वेरी sort of upper middle class privileged upbringing and they all were born and raised in Oxfordshire, right? Very sort of
I'm actually not surprised at
upstate.
that because weirdly, the way they've been conducting their music, it's very pure, right? And
Mm,
only, in my opinion, you can only afford to be like you can only afford to be pure these
yeah.
days, right? Because you can't, let's say अगर मैं पाकिस्तानी म्यूजिक का एक हवाला दूं, so
Mm-hmm.
you have to be really good to turn down the likes of Coke Studio. You have to be very pure, and well doing enough, like well enough to say, you know what, I'm not going to be indulging myself in corporate gigs. So
Right.
it's associated with a lot of like well-being. So I'm
Mm.
not surprised that Radiohead had the same approach. Zain, by the way, is also looking at some Manuat scores at the moment as well, as we can see through his
The
glasses.
therapy is going on. So yeah, so inki, I mean, to your point, unki jo upbringing thi is reflected in the polished nature of their music, I guess.
Right.
There's a polish to it, there's a finesse to it, although they have disavowed that on several albums. हम इसके
So
बारे
who
में
are these guys? Are these
yeah.
friends, brothers? क्या scene है इनका?
So इसमें पांच लोग हैं, original band members. The singer that everyone knows is Tom York, and then you have two brothers in there, the Greenwood brothers. So Colin and Johnny Greenwood. So Johnny Greenwood is the lead guitar player and the main composer after Tom York. Colin Greenwood is their bass guitar player, and
Mm-hmm.
then rhythm guitar loosely because I mean these terms are defined loosely because they swap or change instruments a lot, except for the drummer, of course. So rhythm guitar is played by Ed O'Brien. जिसकी solo album is Salai, and I really enjoyed it. I actually
हाँ,
sent you.
जो तुमने मुझे भेजी थी, हाँ.
और उनका जो drummer is Phil Selby, who's actually extremely underrated if you listen to him live. He's like oh metromonic, but that's the original five. And uske baad, their sixth unofficial member is Nigel Godrich, who's been their producer since their second album. So it's almost like Brian Eno with U2
Mm-hmm.
or Paul McGuinness. एक लिहाज से वो तो manager था, but there was like always that
Yeah,
sort
Steve
of unofficial
Lillywhite.
fifth or sixth. Yeah, Steve Lillywhite or क्या कहते हैं George Martin for the Beatles, right? So there's
Right,
this
right.
always this producer who's associated with the band. So उसमें Nigel Godrich has been there from the get-go, almost the get-go. He didn't produce their first album. Or so that's the original composition. Or they move around and change their instrumentations a lot because Tom York is basically their main singer, उनका
When did
lead
this start,
singer.
by the way?
Hmm?
When did this start?
Early 90s. उनकी first album, I believe, came out in 91. And
Okay, so
then
they're like
second one, The Benz, was
I'm
93,
thinking तो
94.
ये garage grunge
Yeah,
era.
exactly. तो उनके जो initial जो शुरू के दो albums हैं उनके जो उनकी जो initial influences थी उनके पहला जो sound है is basically grunge music.
Mm-hmm.
Or if you listen to songs like You or Creep, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or even just from their second album, it's very heavy grunge music. Magar, they sort of phased that out initially because you're getting the same sound essentially from the Seattle grunge music, which is actually they were doing it better, right?
Mm-hmm.
Nirvana, Pearl Jam, System of a Down, all those people. So they were heavily influenced by that sound in the beginning. They weren't really Britpop, although Britpop was taking over Britain, even the rock music scene across the world at that time through Blur, Oasis, Magar. Excuse me. Initial influences or initial sound was very grunge, and then with OK Computer, it changed a lot. It was completely transformed in the sense that it was art rock at that time.
Oh, it was completely art rock. Yeah, OK Computer was like if you compare that to Creep or something like that. Before that,
Yeah,
it is like two different
yeah, it
bands
is.
or two different identities.
Yeah, OK Computer, man. I mean, it's still a rock album in
Yeah,
fundamentally.
yeah,
It's
yeah, yeah,
made
yeah.
this
Of
rock
course, of
music, but
course.
it's not. They're not married to a concept. Or I mean, if you listen to Karma Police, right? That's a sort of an acoustic rock song, right?
Right.
Magapir, like I said, Airbag is sort of very hardcore meat and potatoes rock.
Mm-hmm.
Interestingly, I mean, I think we can draw parallels with other great bands. So they got so successful after OK Computer, and
Mm-hmm.
basically, if you look at their personalities, they're basically antisocial. The whole entire band, they're not very social, especially York. So they got so
Mm-hmm.
sick of their success. Again, it's such a privileged thing if you think about it. Then that they completely destroyed their sound in their next album. And if you think about it, it reminds me of Bono saying four men chopping down the Joshua tree.
Right,
They
right,
got rid of that sound.
right.
और अगर आप Beatles को भी देखें, they got sick of their boy band sound, and then they just came out with Rubber Soul, like Revolver, and Sergeant Pepper's. So
Uh-huh.
basically, they got sick of the success from OK Computer, and then they came up with Kid A, which was an
Were
album
they
to
like
say sub
uh, chart-topping successes?
OK Computer.
नहीं नहीं यानी कि उससे पहले जो थी उनकी
उससे
सक्सेसेस
पहले
when they
जो
started
I
off.
mean obviously पहली album Pablo Honey में Creep was a mainstream success across the pond as well. US maybe charted near the top of the Billboard top 100, or
Mm-hmm.
the Benz obviously was a success. I mean retroactively it's an even bigger success, but even that time it was a modest to high success. But OK Computer brought them to the mainstream across the world, especially in the US as well. They
Critically
were.
acclaimed.
Hmm?
Critically.
Critical, and then obviously commercial success as well. I mean, obviously it wasn't as big a commercial success as you would, associate with someone like Michael Jackson, for example, right? It wasn't a global smash hit, but it was a respectable hit, right?
Mm-hmm.
Everyone knew about them. उसी वजह से I guess that myth of that album started because everyone has heard about it. Maybe they haven't heard the album, but they have heard about OK
Mm-hmm.
Computer. So उसके बाद they got disillusioned with their success एक लिहाज से कह सकते हैं आप. Or they came out with Kid A, which is released in 2000, I think, and it is bizarre if you listen to it. शुरू में. I mean, instrumentation is out of the window. This computer sounds. It sounds even more depressing than ever before. But in retrospect, it's regarded as one of their best albums. Actually, it's a complete reinvention of their sound. और
अच्छा मुझे
उसमें
मुझे मुझे एक चीज़ बताओ.
हम्म
For people who are, I mean, obviously someone who's listening to this podcast by now
हम्म
is probably a Radiohead fan anyway. But
yeah
let's just assume someone who's trying to buy into this.
हम्म
How would you describe the genre of the band, and what's the like? What would you say to someone who wants to get into Radiohead? You would say, यार, at least तुम्हें ये पसंद अगर तुम्हें ये चीज़ पसंद है ना, तो you're going to relate with Radiohead. तो वो क्या चीज़ होगी? What do you think?
I'll start with maybe artists. If you like 80s K REM, right?
Right.
If you like 80s or 90s U2, 90s especially. If you like
Mm-hmm.
90s U2, if you even like jazz improvisations, for example, you'll get into Radiohead because their chord progressions are very jazzy
If you are not
in a
married
sense.
to a classic four chord, three chord structure of
Mm-hmm.
of a song,
Mm-hmm.
which is what was so new to me when the first time I heard about Radiohead, or when I first heard their stuff, especially OK Computer, was it is not like a pehli marta sun ke I was like, yeah, Karma Police, I love the song. No, it took me about a few
Yeah.
listens before I could say, you know what, this is a fantastic song. The way it progresses. Sometimes you would find songs में दिमाग में वो गाना नहीं आ रहे इस वक्त, but there are songs, and I'm sure you know,
Mm.
which go completely the opposite direction midway. like it starts in a certain tempo and starts in a certain way, and then just
Paranoid
completely
Android
changes.
from OK Computer.
Paranoid Android, yes, yes, there you go. That's the big one. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Paranoid Android. So all of these songs, they're like anti-structure of sorts. And
Yeah.
I was when I before listening to Radiohead, I was listening to classic structures. U2, your LinkedIn, Linkin Parks,
That's just
um,
the state of
and
modern life. And you,
तो
even,
वो
even
ये
if you
सारे
think about Led
बहुत
Zeppelin, that's
structured.
very classical structure,
Led
right?
Zeppelin, yeah, Led Zeppelin, exactly. Black Sabbath, even though वो थोड़ा सा like hard rock था मेरे लिए, but it was still structured. I could still follow it.
Mm.
Even I can predict कि क्या होने वाला है, कि एक गाना start हुआ है इस तरह से, and I know how it's gonna go.
Yeah.
And 9 out of 10 times I would be right. But with Radiohead, it does work like just like they tore the book. You
Yeah.
know what? This who wrote these rules down?
Yeah.
Let's just
Which is,
make our
which is
own.
why I said jazz. If you like jazz, you like improvisational rock in the sense that it
Mhm.
sounds improvisational. Okay, यार उन्होंने start कुछ और चीज से किया था and then in the middle उन्होंने सोचा यार let's take it to a different direction. थोड़ा सा
Right, right.
अलग करते हैं गाने को खत्म.
मे बी
So
डिफरेंट दिन उन्होंने रिकॉर्ड किया होगा, एक दिन वो कुछ और फील कर रहे होंगे, अगले दिन व्हाट वी फील लाइक दिस नाउ, वो दोनों
yeah,
सोनों को मिला, उन दोनों फीलिंग्स को मिला दिया उन्होंने.
yeah. I mean, and though they don't recognize it, I think a big influence उसमें if you've heard Sergeant Pepper's A Day in the Life, right? It has a
Oh yeah,
completely
yeah.
different middle eight, right? Up an end or start जो है, they're all kind of stitched together.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason why I think that song is one of the best that has ever been created is because it influenced so many bands without them even knowing. You can sort of change the song in the middle and then end it a different way. And I think Radiohead is a lot
I
like
was
that.
surprised when I first like तुमने इस पे बात करी है तो मुझे याद आया, Helter Skelter, I
Yeah,
was surprised is a bible for metal rock.
yeah. And it's surprising because made by Paul McCartney, who was seen
हाँ,
as the
the
ballad sort of
popish
guy,
the
right?
popish of the guys, right?
Yeah, if you
और
listen to
प्लस
it
अगर आप
first time, you
उनका
think
उसका
it's
पहला कट
penance.
सुनोगे, और
Yeah,
उसका पहला कट सुनोगे, इट्स नॉट लाइक, इट्स जस्ट लाइक समवन, वो कौन सा स्टेप 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 बीट होती है वो जो ड्रमर के पास होती है वो,
yeah,
क्योंकि इट्स
yeah.
एक्चुअली उस पे बना है वो गाना, एंड देन यू
Hmm.
हैव अ रियली interesting guitar parts in there, and the lyrics are very, like, you can probably see lyrics going very metallic,
Yeah.
but everything else is
The,
very
the metal
rocky
thing about the
rock.
song is the vocals. Actually, music isn't that heavy,
Exactly.
but the vocals
Right.
are like screeching, and that's the
फिर
blueprint
उसके
for.
जो वर्जन्स बने हैं,
Uh-huh.
आई थिंक लव एल्बम जो थी ना, लव एंथोलॉजी पार्ट 3, सॉरी,
हाँ 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 उसमें फिर उसने
उसके अंदर
I
जो उसका
Want You
जो
She's
वर्जन
So
है,
Heavy के साथ मिक्स किया था उसको.
किसके साथ?
I Want You She's So Heavy वाला जो गाना है इनका
नहीं नहीं,
Abbey
वाला
Road
नहीं
से.
था. अगर तुम उसका सुनो ना, वो
No, Benefit from Mr. Kite.
बेनिफिट ऑफ द मिस्टर काइट,
Yes.
देयर यू
I
गो.
Want You She's So
बेनिफिट ऑफ द
Heavy,
मिस्टर.
Benefit from Mr. Kite, and then Helter Skelter को मिस किया था उन्होंने.
ओए
Yes.
होए होए, that's one of my favorite, like,
The
mergers of a
remake is
song.
like
वो
incredibly heavy, right? I
बहुत ज़बरदस्त था, बहुत ज़बरदस्त था वो. तो yeah, just going back to that. Anyway,
yeah.
continue.
So, like I said कि इनका अगर आपको म्यूजिक एंजॉय करना है तो should be open to like different chord structures, progressions, music being stitched together. And one of the criticisms for Radiohead जो लोग सुनते नहीं हैं पसंद करने के बावजूद वो ये है कि यार डिप्रेस कर देते हैं उनके गाने ना. It's not
Dark है.
cheerful, upbeat music. उनकी minor chord progressions are kind of emblematic of that. So I don't think it's dark in the sense that everything is doom and gloom. I mean, if you listen to maybe OK Computer Kid A, it is maybe Amnesiac too. There's Amnesiac, that famous Pyramid song is on there, right? That's a gloomy
Mhm.
song as well. So, I mean, their subject matter is pessimistic actually, which is ironic because one of their best songs from Kid A is called Optimistic, and it's not optimistic. But so they have a sometimes
So
you
let
can
me
say कि
let me dumb it
pessimistic.
down then. Do you foresee Naved listening to Radiohead?
Naved listens to Radiohead's songs that are used in movies, basically. तो उसको 4 गाने बताऊंगे Radiohead के वो सारी movies में, but I don't think he'll listen to OK Computer. He's a very
तो एक
classically
नवेद
structured.
जैसे बंदे को तुम कैसे बेचोगे?
उसको मैं जो हूँ कहूँगा कि The Band सुनो. That's the most classically structured album.
Mm-hmm.
हालांकि उसमें भी if you've heard Iron Lung, right? वो भी थोड़ा सा
I
change
don't
होता
know. Yes.
है, right? But I think their most sonically pleasing album which is also my top three, is In Rainbows, right?
Mm-hmm.
और उसकी खासियत ये है कि वो जब उन्होंने रिलीज करी थी तो उन्होंने बोला जिसको जितने पे करने हैं पे करके ले
Oh
ले,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
because
मुझे याद
they
मुझे याद
were bypassing, you know, the label producer. They're so sick of it. And I
है.
think on average people paid what, $7 for it, something like that. याद नहीं है मुझे, मगर they still paid a decent amount, and it is one of the best albums in the last 20 years, if not like it's a top three album in the last 20-25 years, and that is the most pleasing album from a sonic perspective. तो
Mm-hmm.
अगर कोई Radiohead को अभी सुनना चाह रहा है and they don't have the ear for that experimentation, I would suggest listening to the Bends and In Rainbows, because if they have the most conventional song structures. I mean the
Right.
song structures that you're used to, but I wouldn't say you could just listen to those, because what makes Radiohead unique is, you know, Amnesiac or Kid A or OK Computer or A Moon Shaped Pool recently, which is again absolutely brilliant album. So just to get into it, like I said, you know, listen to In Rainbows and the Bends.
Okay. Perfect. So let's get into the. I wouldn't say top. Like I'm gonna caveat this.
Hmm.
Okay, this might not be Zan's best top 10 Radiohead songs.
Yeah, yeah.
These are what you're going to be listening to throughout this kind of mini series that we have.
Hmm.
We're going to be walking you through top 5, top 10, what have you. Depends on who I have on. Like Zan, for example, speaking about Radiohead, he
Yeah.
suggested he wanted to do a top 10. So this is not a top 10 of his favorite songs, but this is a top 10 of someone who wants to get into Radiohead, but maybe can
Listen to those
start with
songs.
these
Yeah.
10 songs.
Yeah.
And again, it may be varying for other Radiohead fans. You know, you could have different Radiohead fans which may disagree and say, you know what, maybe इसको उठा के ये वाला होना चाहिए था, या maybe the whole list different होनी चाहिए, whatever. But this is Zan's list. This is Zan's like years and years of experience listening to
Hmm.
them, and this is what he's conjured out and said, okay, you know what, if there's a new person listening to Radiohead, start with these songs. So we're gonna do like a quick snippets of these songs as Zen gets ready to present them. And they're no in they're not going to be in no particular order, right,
No,
Zen?
I mean, I have aversion to orders right now because ये बहुत तेजी से change होता है. I mean, as you know this as well.
But
So
you can probably maybe the दसों के दस order में ना हो, but
हाँ,
what you can do is at least give me the first song that you would like. जो first song होगा ना कि यार अभी कोई तुम्हारे पास आया है कि Mr. Zen, I want to listen to Radiohead. I'm new in this country. Hardly know a word of English. Would you be the godfather to my rock and roll music?
yeah. I mean, it's such a difficult question to answer because one
It didn't
song
happen in the end.
does not capture them and encapsulate them. मगर मैं वही गाना लोगों को recommend करूँगा जो मैंने पहली दफ़ा सुना था, और मैं भी एक sort of classical sort of structured rock background से आ रहा था.
फिर
तो
इसको फिर end में बताना कि did it happen in the end or did you let it go?
no, we had to continue with them. They were good. So so मैं जो हूँ लोगों को ये recommend करूँगा कि आप just listen to the first song of OK Computer, which is Airbag.
Start
And
करो. Screen
it's
share
not
करो.
really
Start करो.
it's not really one of their best known songs, I would say.
Mhm.
It's not, but and they actually don't even play it that much. मगर मेरे point of view से I still is probably my favorite radio song actually, and it just captures a lot of what makes them unique but also accessible.
Okay.
मेरे कहने की मुराद ये है कि आप you get that heavy rock and roll riff at the beginning, but you get those little nuances in their lyrics as well. What Airbag is about basically modern technology, and literally is about an airbag saving the singer's life. He actually had a very big accident. I think it was in Germany, and he should not have survived if it wasn't for an airbag. That's why he wrote that song. So, like I said, OK Computer is about disillusionment with technology, but at the same time, he's saying, you know what, I'm alive because of it too. So, do listen to Airbag first,
Let's
and
let's let's listen to it. Let's listen to a little bit of that.
all right, let's listen to
Let's give me
on.
give me a
And
few
I think that's
snippets.
the
Give me a few.
on
Okay,
that
so
queue.
you're gonna be walking us through your top 10 songs. You're gonna
Yeah.
start with the first one, which is going to be the first one, but then the others may vary in terms of their rankings, right?
इनका ऑर्डर क्या है या मुझे
Order we can
ज़्यादा
decide,
कौन सा
but I
पसंद
think
है? It's really
number
hard.
one का order तुम वही रखो. Um, and essentially the order usually can be, अगर आपको order रखना भी है,
Hmm.
तो can be in the order of listenability for someone who's new to this kind of music.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
like you
yeah.
start very like you
It's
start
accessible. Yeah, I mean, I
uh,
wouldn't put many Kid A songs on there, like something like Everything in Its Right Place. It's very tough to get into. But once you
oh
do
yeah,
get into it,
that's a very beautiful song by the way.
yeah, it is. Magar, it's not as accessible as, let's say, In Rainbows,
But I'm
right?
sure उन्होंने किसी ना इसको किसी ना की मूवी में सुना होगा ये गाना.
Oh yeah, for sure, 100%. I mean, especially if you like Peaky Blinders on BBC. I don't
Oh
personally
yeah,
watch,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
मगर
yeah.
उस शो
उसी में
में
था ना.
रेडियो के गाने बहुत ज़्यादा इस्तेमाल हुए हैं और
Oh
इवन वेस्टवर्ल्ड इज़ अनदर HBO शो जो कि काफ़ी पॉपुलर है उसमें भी रेडियोहेड के गाने बहुत ज़्यादा इस्तेमाल हुए हैं आई मीन ओवर
पीकी
देयर
ब्लाइंडर्स के
सीजन्स
ऊपर हमें एक अलग से एक एपिसोड करना चाहिए. उसका साउंड ट्रैक थ्रू आउट द फोर 4 सीजन हो चुके हैं ना.
किसके
थ्रू आउट द पीकी ब्लाइंडर्स के
हाँ हाँ
is just amazing. जो उन्होंने
आउटस्टैंडिंग
पीकी
आउटस्टैंडिंग आई
हर
मीन
गाना लाइक बेहतरीन फिट करता है इन द सीन्स.
बहुत ज़बरदस्त सो
चलो anyway.
let's get started on my favorite Radiohead songs. Well, not favorite, the songs that you need to listen to Radiohead to get into them. I would say that's
हाँ,
a better way of describing it. Thompson, things. Without
स्टार्ट
further
करो.
ado, so this is Airbag. This is the riff I was talking about. The last.
Okay.
So, like I said, it's a very conventional sort of structure. Okay, you start with a heavy riff at the beginning. मगर इसके
वर्स का स्निपेट देना है जरा. वर्स का.
wasting time pointing it. And
Fantastic. All right, so you start with Airbag. Airbag is your first, you would say, first pill that you would offer to a new Radiohead listener. All right, where do you go next from that?
उसके बाद let's change it up a little. मैंने In Rainbows की बहुत बात करी है, so I'll play a song from that album, which is, I would say, if you've heard Creep, it's a more refined Creep in terms of that sounds weird. It's a more refined version of Creep in terms of lyrics, but musically is completely different. It's sort of okay. Let's just listen to it. Let's see. It's driven by that bass sound,
Mm-hmm.
and this is where Colin. A very chill sort of R&B feel of the song. It's very intense, and this is best listened to if you have good quality ear headphones because the bass is absolutely unbelievable. And then end May you have that crescendo piano, which is fantastic. But
अच्छा, तुम उसको पॉज करके बोलना, तुम्हारी आवाज उसके ऊपर नहीं आएगी.
Aria was maybe better because I don't know if
हाँ.
I'm taking over. But yeah, this is more of a chill, laid back song from a musical perspective. But lyrically is very sort of searching.
Right.
So another song that I would definitely recommend is All I Need from Radiohead. If everyone's heard of Karma Police, again, what's sort of a ballady sound, but again,
Hmm.
everyone's heard.
I'm surprised you didn't start with this one.
You can make a good case to start with that this as well, but I don't know. It's almost way too mainstream. I don't know.
हाँ ठीक है चलो ठीक है.
Hear me out.
I think this was probably my first Radiohead song.
It might have been my first song that I heard without actually trying to hear them. If that makes any sense.
Right.
Uh, Maybe this or Paranoid Android.
I think for me it was probably definitely Karma Police.
Hmm.
I think because I didn't listen to Creep until years later. Karma Police was probably my first one.
Creep, interestingly, was a song that was used in the Social Network as well, but a completely different choir version. If you've heard of that.
अच्छा.
हाँ,
No, I
बहुत
haven't heard
interesting.
of that.
बहुत इंटरेस्टिंग सी ट्रेलर में भी था वगैरह वगैरह दैट
मैंने उसका
इवन
वो ग्ली वाला वर्जन सुना हुआ है. ग्ली एक शो आता था, उसका वर्जन सुना
अच्छा
हुआ है.
मैंने उसमें नहीं देखा मैंने
Like I
and
haven't seen the show, but I just like that version. It was pretty good.
mm, now I would draw your attention to Present Tense, which is a very simple song in the sense that it's
Mhm.
just basically Tom York on um, acoustic guitar, but उसकी जो chord progression is, well, let's just listen to it. Beautiful. The typical thing about the song is that, जब इसकी chord progression चल रही होती है, you think maybe the song is going to a happy place, but then it sort of doesn't. And that's very typical of Radiohead. They lead you to a happy place, but then, they sort of bring you right back. But it's an amazing song from A Moon-Shaped Pool, which is their most recent record from 16.
Got
And
it.
it is, again, it is probably a top 3 or 4 album for me. It's just phenomenal. So that's one other song that it's very easy to access,
Hmm.
sort of acoustic
What's
ballad.
next?
उसके बाद, which is a personal favorite of mine these days, is Scatterbrain. I've been playing this on guitar a lot
मैंने
because,
वो बैंड्स का वो
yeah.
चलो ये सुनाओ पहले, फिर मैं बाद में बात करता हूँ.
So let's listen to this opening chord projection. Typical structure, but अचानक से देखना that minor sound simple. अभी तक it sounds like a sort of a run-of-the-mill pop
हम्म.
rock song. By the way, this is from
Is this where it changes?
yeah. So again, the refrain is kind of very different from the verse itself, which is a signature for Radiohead. and this is off
Right.
of their 2003 album "Hail to the Thief."
Hmm.
Again, another record that's very accessible, but it's also very anti-establishment or corporate hierarchy and structures. Um, Again, a seminal Radiohead record that everyone should listen to, which is probably going to be my second record to recommend after OK Computer. अगर OK Computer के बाद आपको कुछ और record सुनना है, so that would be Hail to the Thief,
Hail to the thief.
alongside alongside In Rainbows probably. So that's Scatterbrain. इसके बाद जो गाना है मेरे ख्याल से सबने सुना होगा या कहीं कहीं ना कहीं तो सुना होगा is Just, because that's also
Mango Jerry from the album Mango Jerry.
yeah, yeah, from the
Yeah,
band, yeah.
these are all the artists UK references, by the way.
Yes. So this is a very
Oh yeah.
Can't get the stink out. He's been hanging around for days. Comes like a
I'll
comet.
take this up to the chorus.
Suck at you, but not your friends. And then he'll get to you and teach you how to be a hoe. How you do it to yourself, you do. And that's why
I love the song, by the way.
I love this song. It's again an easy song to get into from the band's live.
Ah,
That's
very easy song.
a great rock song. It's not like there's nothing artsy going on, nothing tricky. Just like a three guitar like thrash around. It's just well two
But
electric.
you still get like वो जो Radioheadness थोड़ी सी इसके अंदर होती है, like
Radiohead,
ये वाला
it's all
like there's no place for
that's
that.
Johnny Greenwood basically in a nutshell. That little sort of guitar part.
No, but
Great.
also the tone of, like, also the pitch of the guitar, like it doesn't
Yeah,
really fit in the song. Like अगर आप कहोगे ना
yeah,
classically,
exactly.
if this was being produced by a classic, producer, they would say, yeah, what the fuck, like remove this part. It doesn't really
And
fit
I
in. But
just
that's
stick with a chord.
Radiohead for you.
I just play a chord, a major chord or something.
Yeah,
But
yeah, yeah.
yeah, so they always had that sort of, like you said, Radiohead ness. That's the best way.
Uh,
To put it. So
Even with the simpler songs, or even with the more classier songs, they still you can hear like Radioheadness from those songs.
And on that note, I'll play a third last song on my list is from the King of Limbs, which is their second most recent album. Came out in 2011, I think, and it's again it's an amazing, it's a gorgeous song. इसमें जो है, what I really enjoyed is Ed O'Brien's part, who's the least flash of their members, right, of the band. But
Hmm.
उसकी जो guitar playing is, it's very edge influence in the sense that we are, if you've heard,
Minimalist style.
you heard the Passengers project, right?
Right, right, right.
So उसमें जिस तरह की atmospheric minimalist style या even unforgettable part में जो उसने edge ने इस्तेमाल किया है, Ed O'Brien does
Hmm.
that absolutely brilliantly on this song, The Separator, and I'll actually go to that part. Um, by the way, the metronomic drum playing is amazing.
Yeah, metronome. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's got live song. It's like, I mean, a robot is playing this. It feels like a robot playing this drum part, and it's just perfect drum part plays throughout the song. And it basically feels Selva in a nutshell. It's this proficient. The part is, I don't, yeah,
तुम्हारी आवाज कट रही है ऊपर से सॉन्ग के ऊपर से ना, तो फेड आउट करके बात करना.
But मैं ये कह रहा था कि इस गाने का मेरा favorite part is towards the end, the atmospheric guitar playing of EOB, which I'm going to quickly forward to. Right in the middle. This is that
Yeah.
guitar, it's very simple to play, maybe just two notes or three notes at a time,
Mm.
but it creates a great sort of atmosphere, which is reminiscent.
Atmosphere, right? It's beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah, which is reminiscent of like the Unforgettable Fire, the Passengers Project, or
Mm.
anything Brian Eno has done basically on his solo works as
Oh
well.
yeah, 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 yeah. It screams
So
Ryan. You know this one.
yeah, yeah. So really excellent song. Again, accessible too, which is why I chose this because it's very easy to just listen to and follow along. Which is not typical of the King of Limbs. It's not an easy album. It's an
Mm.
excellent record, but it's not an easy album to get into. Um, Next is UN Whose Army on Amnesiac. I would have chosen Pyramid Song, but that's extremely mainstream, and everyone's probably heard of it. UN Whose Army again. It's not okay. Let's just play it. I mean, it
Mm.
reminds me of the second half of OK Computer, but let's just play it.
Come on.
Let me take it towards the end.
You forget so
See, you're dependent on
Mhm.
It's actually one of
Oh, I
Naveed's
love the drums.
favorite songs.
Yeah, मुझे drums के बहुत मार लगा.
Listen to the playlist, man. Maybe you'll refresh your Radiohead journey. Actually,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I just love that. मुझे पता नहीं वो जो drum sequence होता है वाला dun 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 dun
I'll
dun.
say
I
it
love that.
complements it perfectly. गाना बहुत जबरदस्त तरीके से pick up होता है. Like I said, this is one of Naveed's favorite YouTube song, not YouTube, Radiohead songs,
Oh,
and
really?
which tells you something in the sense that's accessible. He's not really I would say, a sophisticated Radiohead listener. I'm concerned
To put it
with
nicely.
to
To put it nicely.
and any song that doesn't have Muhammad Rafi at the end is not really sophisticated enough.
Actually, you know
That
what? If Radiohead knew of Mohammed Rafi, they would probably use him in
they,
like a
they
very
might
obscure artsy way.
in a very obscure yeah,
नहीं
exactly.
वो नहीं था यार अभी अभी कहाँ पर हाँ जैसे कि व्हाट्स हिज नेम जैसे अपने कोल्ड पे ने यूज किया था ना किसको
Yeah.
यूज किया था आपदा परवीन को ना
Yes, that's true. Was it Coldplay
राइट
or
नो नो इट वाज
yeah,
द रीसेंट एल्बम कोल्ड प्ले की
really? I don't know.
आई थिंक इट वाज आपदा परवीन मैंने तो बताया था शायद आपदा परवीन थी या
It rings a bell. It does ring a bell.
नुसरत फतेह अली खान था आई डोंट नो बट समथिंग वेरी लाइक आई वाज लाइक ओह वाओ
Mm.
दिस इज अमेजिंग
But like I said, Nabil, like I said, I mean, his level of sophistication is Linkin Park feat Jay-Z. Wildly around, like, yeah. I don't even know if he's that deep into this podcast, so he doesn't know. All fair game.
हाँ
Uh, it was it the office reference for this?
किसी से क्या
क्या कहते हैं? It's all in good fun. क्या था office का reference? What was that line?
पैंटर
क्या?
इधर वो जो
Okay.
बोल रहा था ना उसका एस एस पे पैंटर तो क्या नो इट्स नॉट तो उसके लिए रहा था वो
Yeah. It's nothing offensive. Yeah, nothing. I can't remember. Like
हाँ
my
वो था
friend
ना
has given me.
हाँ वो बोलता है कि and he laughed because it wasn't offensive
Yeah,
ऐसा था ना नहीं
it was harmless.
ना
Yeah.
नहीं harmless ऐसा कुछ था and he laughed because it wasn't I don't know
उस पे
मुझे को
वो
याद नहीं आ रहा बड़ा
bread
वो
basket वाला
था
part करा था ना. Yeah.
हाँ
Shit, man, my brain is escaping me.
अब
But
भी देना पड़ेगा
that's what I'm saying about in a way. So I left Planet Telex for the end. I think I've gone through everyone. इसका जो outro I think you'll enjoy a lot. इसका जो outro में जो guitar progression या part है, it's
Mhm.
almost like Mysterious Ways, but you know Mysterious Ways का जो outro है, right? इसका जो arpeggiation outro है, but it's sadder. I don't know how else to describe it. That's just Radiohead in a nutshell. Let's get you there. So anyone who appreciates sort of minimalist or atmospheric or complementary guitar playing will like the song a lot.
Can't you forget? Can't you forget? Can't you
Nice.
I've always loved those guitar parts. Simple.
Oh, lovely to like close the song. It's brilliant.
So it's again, it's Radiohead's sort of guitar or sort of rock instincts at their best. That closes out my list. Do listen to at least 5 of those songs. Anyone.
So what I'll do is, I think a very interesting thing that you've done. I'm glad that you made it into a playlist. What I'll do is if you can make this playlist public, we can share that as part of the podcast, and then people can refer to it.
Okay, all right. How do you do that actually? Sharing on
I'll tell you after the podcast. I'll tell you afterwards.
Sure.
So,
Don't see me fumbling.
uh,
All right.
So
that
that was
It's
that
very
was
hard to
Radiohead.
encapsulate them. I mean, तो किसी चीज में किसी concept में कैद करना आसान नहीं है. They're not made to a certain type of rock music. Although, I mean, you can call them sort of alternative rock. I think it's the best description for them. मगर to this उन गानों को सुनने के बाद थोड़ी सी आसानी होगी उनको sort of किसी चीज में describe किसी जाविये में किसी चीज में ना encapsulate करने में आसानी तब उसके बाद होगी मेरे ख्याल से.
Like you would probably feel more curious to listen to more songs after you listen to 10 at least. So that's great. That's great. Fantastic. I think this was an amazing like deep dive into Radiohead. It was certainly important for me as well because it took me back. A lot of these songs I haven't listened to in a while, so I am certainly going to go back to them. And what we're going to do with the in the podcast description is going to share this playlist that Zain has created in Spotify. Unfortunately, you'll have to be on Spotify or like I think Pakistan may be like available in Spotify, but I'm sure people are still using Spotify in Pakistan.
अगर वहाँ पे आपके पास दस्तयाब नहीं है ये feature, so you just look it up on YouTube, right?
Yeah, exactly. But you can still like you can still access this music anywhere that you listen to music. But yeah, with that we'll wrap it up. Thanks a lot, Zain. I think this is a fantastic discussion on Radiohead. I think we pretty much like captured or try to capture like the whole, because they're all over the place. That seems right. So it's very hard to like, it's like herding cats. Very hard to like.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it is exactly like that. If you're trying to sort of understand what their music is like, it is exactly like herding cats at times. So it can be a thankless task, or people might just give up on it, right? In the sense, understand an artist. So उसको समेटने की हमने कोशिश करी यहाँ पे, and hopefully that helps.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so we'll be back with another of these types of like artist intro episodes very soon. We'll be doing a bunch of them down the line. I know we have, and Zain, just for your knowledge, I have Azaz introing Jimi Hendrix.
Oh,
nice. He's a Jimi Hendrix buff, or especially now after that he's acquired. तो मैं बताया था मैं उसका जो उसने एक नया स्ट्रैट लिया है सन.
I saw his on his Instagram actually.
हाँ एक्चुअली वो उसके नया वो $1,500 का स्ट्रैट लिया उसने. $1,500.
Nice.
$1,500. तो वो भी उसने इससे पहले वो ग्रीन में लिया था, ग्रीन और वाइट में. लेकिन ब्लैक एंड वाइट में जो क्लासिक स्ट्रैट कलर होता है. बट वो मेरे ख्याल से अगले दिन ही उसकी स्ट्रिंग बजना शुरू हो गई थी तो उसकी हट गई. उसने कहा भाई $1,500 देके तूने मुझे क्या बेच दिया. तो उन्होंने वो जो उसको जो दिया है वो सनबर्स्ट है ना, सनबर्स्ट है वो.
Okay.
It's actually more expensive क्योंकि वो वाला कलर फॉर सम रीज़न इज द मोस्ट यूज्ड गिटार कलर. तो
Nice.
लेकिन उसको कॉम्पनसेट करने के लिए कि भाई इतनी इतनी महंगी चीज़ ली, तो मेरे ख्याल से 1800-2000 डॉलर का, तो वो खुद था, तो उसने उनको उसको उसी प्राइस में उनको दे दिया, उसको दे दिया.
Wow. So
Yeah, so
that's next one on the horizon.
that's definitely coming down. And then we'll have more artists to discover. I think we have so many that we listen to, and we're gonna feature some Pakistanis as well. I want to do one on Shamoon Ismail. I think he's one of the
Yeah.
more rising ones, but he's definitely, I don't understand a single word
Yeah.
of what he says because it's mostly in Punjabi.
Yeah.
But I really like how he's putting his music together. So yeah, there are gonna be a lot of these coming through, and yeah, hope you're gonna enjoy it. So
Yeah, or good. I
see you in
mean,
the next one.
and if Azad has trouble explaining Hendrix, he can always say, "I'll get the guitar." He went home to get it.
I'll get it. Yeah, he went home to get it. Chalo bhai. So we should
So,
actually, speaking of that, we should do one on The Office UK as well.
yeah, that's
Let's get a read.
that'll be on the list. Yes.
For sure. Chalo khair. It was a great discussion. You can go back to your derby. I think it's still 0-0 right now.
Nil
57
plus
minutes.
55 minutes in.
Oh, good.
All
All right.
right.
Talk to you soon, man.
All right. See ya.